When it comes to being child-free, the conversation switches up entirely when people find out you're married. Hi, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, welcome back. If we've been locked in, my name is Sasha, and today we are talking about being child-free in the context of marriage. I've been married for 8 years now. I just celebrated my 8-year wedding anniversary. And I have found that when we talk about being child-free, the conversation is almost always exclusively framed around single people, specifically single women. But as soon as somebody finds out you're married and do not have children, all of a sudden you're not child-free, you're childless. And it's almost offensive because childless and child-free are two entirely separate things. Childless is someone, at least the way I have always understood it to mean, childless is someone who does not have children or is unable to have children, but wants them. Whereas child-free is someone who does not have children by choice. And I think there was absolutely a need for child-free. It's more of a positive term, whereas childless is a very negative term. I think it's actually neutral, but the way people use it can be very negative. For me, I love child-free because it denotes a freedom that women at a certain time were not able to exercise and have when it came to deciding whether they wanted to have children or not. The term child-free was absolutely necessary, and I personally love that term, and that's what I identify with. First and foremost, if you interact with me on social media and not in real life, but if your interactions with me are on social media, you probably are surprised to find out that I am married because my husband, I don't post him. He hates social media. So I try to respect his privacy and desire not to be on social media. So I'll post him on Instagram stories here and there. But for the most part, I leave him off of my social media. And so people are generally pretty surprised when they find out I am married. And then they're almost always, the second natural question is, do you have kids? And when I'm like, nope, don't have kids, the line of questioning and the reaction completely shifts. It almost becomes like a, what is wrong with you? Because the expectation for women when they are married is to have children. We're getting further away from that, but that is still deeply ingrained in our society, this expectation of women and attaching motherhood to womanhood, and not just motherhood to womanhood, but being a wife. And while as a society, we're generally getting better about not inquiring about women's wombs and being intrusive, because you never know what any woman is going through. Like, I just ran into a friend of a friend, and she was telling me that she did IVF and it failed 3 different times. Another one of my good friends, I found out him and his wife to conceive, they went through 4 rounds of IVF. So you really know, you really don't know what anybody's going through. And it's just not necessary to engage that line of questioning. You don't know what anybody is struggling with, and you do not want to be the worst part of someone's day or possibly trigger someone unnecessarily. So people are a little bit better about not asking. But if people know me on a one-on-one level or just casually are comfortable to ask me that, there are some people who will immediately jump into that question and then are very surprised to find out that, or very surprised by my reaction. And my reaction over the years has changed because my thoughts about children over the years has changed. But for the most part, I can just honestly, plainly say, I'm not ready for my life to change. And I never felt really strongly about it one way or the other. When Snowbay and I got married, that's what I call my husband, by the way, Snowbay. When Snowbay and I got married, our life situation started to change. I was starting to form my life in the way I wanted to. We were traveling a lot more. I started teaching indoor cycling. I really started to enjoy my life and build a life that I really loved. I was not ready for that life to change. And in many ways, I'm still not ready. I'm still very selfish. And I think that that is a wonderful thing to acknowledge. And it's a good thing to acknowledge because, yes, I am married and I would obviously be going on this parenting journey with my husband. We would be in this together. But a woman's life, when she becomes a mother, changes so much more than a man's life ever could. Because a man does not become a parent until the child is here. A woman becomes a mom at conception. As soon as that baby is in you, and as soon as you decide, hey, I'm gonna keep this baby, we're rolling together on this journey, and that life starts growing inside of you, you're a mom. You feel it. It impacts everything. I'm not speaking from experience. Like, this is what people share. But, it impacts everything. And so a man becoming a dad, I don't think it's ever comparable to a woman becoming a mom. And I think I also feel so strongly about this because I am one of 7. I'm number 2 in that lineup. So in many ways, I was parentified growing up. I'm again, number 2 of 7. So I remember dropping off my younger siblings to school, having a car seat in the backseat of my beat up station wagon, which I was only allowed to drive because I knew how to drive. And so now, great, I could take this off my parents' hands by being able to drive my siblings to school who went to school down the street from me. So it's like, boom, I don't think it was necessarily the worst thing ever. I'm not like impacted by it. I don't resent my parents over it. However, I was forced to grow up a little bit quicker because I had so many younger siblings. And as part of Nigerian culture, the expectation is you are helping out with your younger sibling. And I don't want to directly attribute it to Nigerian culture exclusively, because I think a lot of cultures are like that, right? There is this expectation that you are watching your younger siblings. And I think there's a fine line between helping out and parentification. I think there were a lot of times where I was parentified, but there were also other times where I don't think it was an unreasonable expectation to help out with things when it came to my younger siblings. For example, getting them ready for school or doing their hair. Like, I liked doing that, so I didn't view it as being parentified. But again, as number 2 of 7, you just grow up a lot faster. Not only you grow up faster, I saw the ways in which my mom was impacted by having 7 children. And my mom loves being a mom. My mom is a mom, okay? My mom is a mom. She shines at being a mom. I also saw the ways in which she lost herself in motherhood. And I had such a good conversation with her about it because my mom is such a crafty person. And at one point she started making beads, she started making earrings. And I was just like, I never saw you do that growing up. And she was like, I just didn't have time to do that. I had all of y'all. And now that y'all are older and you don't need me as much, I can pour back into myself. And now my mom be out partying every week. And my mom parties more than I do. Every Nigerian function this woman is at. She has raised all of her children. She ain't got no babies in the house anymore. My youngest brother is 22, so now she is able to show up and like live the way she wants. But for so long she couldn't because she was a mom. Or I won't say she couldn't, but it was more challenging, right? It was more challenging. She didn't have as much time. That her priority was us. And I think when you do have children, they have to become your priority. So much has to change. So much should change. So much should shift. I'm not ready for that change. I'm not ready for that shift. I'm still very selfish. And so it was always for me until I was ready for my life to change in a way that I was ready to sacrifice for somebody else. I was not going to become anybody's mother. And now somebody's going to drop down in the comments and say, oh, you're never ready. Yes, I can respect that, but I wanted to go into becoming a mother. If I ever wanted to become a mom, I always told myself I would go into it with intention. And going into it with intention for me meant being ready to sacrifice in ways that I would have to in order to become not only a mother, but to give my child the life they deserve because they did not ask to be here. And so when I think about it in that way, I wanted to be so intentional about being a mom. And this is the first time in my life that I have honestly felt ready to be someone's mother. Like if I found out tomorrow I was going to be a mom, I'd be like, okay, cool. Cool. Whereas before I'd be like, oh my God, no, I would not have been happy about it. But at this point in my life now, I would feel so ready because I've done what I wanted to do in life. I feel comfortable. I feel grounded. I feel mentally ready, emotionally ready, like physically ready. I'm probably in the best shape of my life that I've been in a minute. Like I feel great. I am debt free. I have no student loans. And that's another thing that was always like kind of I was so apprehensive about because being a parent is expensive. Like sometimes I want to pull my dad to the side and be like, how'd y'all really do this? How'd y'all do it? Who was fronting? What was going on? Because being a parent is so expensive. But this is the first time in my life that I am debt free. I don't owe nobody no money. Like I am good. I'm good. I have gainful employment. I got a spouse. I have somebody supporting me. But at the same time, like I said, I'm going on this parenthood. The intention is to go on this parenthood journey with my husband, but I don't know what tomorrow brings. I don't know what the future is going to bring for us. So let's say I'm not able to rely on that second income. Okay, now I got me. I got to make sure me and my kid are good. And I never felt financially secure enough to be like, hey, I could add another mouth to feed to my plate without struggling. And I believe struggling is a choice. And I know we live in a culture of suffering and struggling. I don't ascribe to that. I don't want that for me. I'm not going to be out here struggling. I'm not going to be out here. That's not what I ascribe to myself. That's not how I want to live. And that's not how I would want to bring a child. That's not a situation that I would want to bring a child into. Raising a child in this economy now is hard enough with just two parents. Imagine like being a single parent. It's so hard. Being a parent is so hard, but being a single parent, there's levels to that. And then on top of it being levels to that, there's like stigma attached with it. Our society is so shitty to single moms. We say we want more children, where people are complaining about a birthing crisis, but we're not creating the conditions necessary to facilitate women feeling comfortable bringing children into this world, feeling financially secure. You know, we are losing our community. There is no village. The cost of daycare is absurd. One of my riders was telling me that I don't see her as much anymore because she was saying that her daughter-in-law was thinking about dropping out of the workforce because she crunched the numbers and it was just going to be more expensive to send both of her kids to daycare than it would be for her to just quit her job. So can you imagine that? Like, the cost of living, the cost of raising children in this country is so high that when I said I would want to go into parenting with intention, that is something that I factored into the equation. And having as many student loans as I had, that is not something that I would have felt comfortable with bringing a child into this world. But and as I'm saying all of this, I want people to recognize, and I would hope that people would recognize that this is just me. Like, your miles may vary. Just because you did think or thought about things differently, does not make you any better. It doesn't make you any worse. It just makes it different. And we all have different expectations and experiences that we should respect, because I initially felt apprehensive about even having this conversation because it gets so divisive. But I also rarely see women who are married talking about being child-free and what that decision means for them. And so I just wanted to open up that conversation, and I hope people understand that what I am saying is not an attack on what you have chosen. And I think that's in part what sometimes makes this conversation so challenging to have, especially online, is because people react from a place of emotion and projection, instead of them to just understand that, hey, this person is sharing their experience and it doesn't invalidate my experience or mean that their experience is any better or even worse than mine. But anyways, yeah, when I think about like parenting and why I have, chosen to be child-free despite being with my husband for 13 years, being married for 8 years, parenting is hard. What I love the most about social media, well, one of the things that I love about social media, a lot of it is like questionable, but one thing I really like is that it has informed me more about what goes into parenting, because parenting was always, before social media and just the ways I would casually hear people talk about it or see it being reported, it's like, oh, this is the most fulfilling thing ever. This is the best thing ever. And social media is quick to be like, no, this is the reality of the situation. And I truly love that we are now in a space and a time where you can hop online and you can share your conversations and not have to sugarcoat everything. Like, we can recognize that parenting is challenging. And when I say that to people, sometimes they're like, oh, well, it's just like people show all the negative. I don't think showing the low moments of something means it's entirely negative. And that hasn't influenced my decision. I have watched so many videos of kids destroying property, of kids wasting money, doing things that are expensive and destructive, scary, some combination of all of the above. And it's never made me say, I never want kids. It's made me say, thank God I don't have children, because I cannot. I love that people are so honest about what goes into parenting, recognizing how challenging it is, how sometimes very isolating it can be. Like, I never thought, for example, there was this video I saw, and even like talking with my friends about it because it promoted a conversation with them that I wouldn't have known about because maybe other moms were having this conversation with one another, but I'm not a mom, so I would never have known this. But I've learned so much how isolating breastfeeding can be. Like, the woman in the video was saying that when I want to breastfeed, I have to go to another space entirely to do it because, you know, some people have their own thoughts about breastfeeding and they don't want, you know, to just breastfeed your baby out in public. Attitudes are changing on it, but before there was a huge stigma against public breastfeeding. And so when I was watching this woman's video, I was like, oh my goodness, I would have never thought about that. Because she's like, people would come and visit me and they would want to see the baby, but they would come in, immediately ask for the baby, hand me the baby when they start crying, and I gotta feed them, then I have to leave, and I come out, I'm done breastfeeding, the baby is asleep, and people don't want to watch the baby sleep. So they leave. And she's like, nobody asks me how I'm doing. I'm missing out on the conversations that I would normally be having with friends or family if they were here, if I was able to publicly breastfeed. And then I was talking to my friends about it. I was like, hey, I watched this video. Is this true? And they're like, yeah, like it can be very isolating sometimes breastfeeding. So I would have never known about that. And so I'm glad that social media, we're able to have like these conversations that we wouldn't have known about until you experience that, right? And I think that's part of what makes social media so brilliant. There were so many things we would not have ever known about or even been exposed to unless we know someone who's gone through it or unless we've gone through it ourselves. And social media has kind of lifted this veil off of motherhood, the good, the bad, and the ugly, like all of it. And I think it's so important to get all of those perspectives. And because I was able to see all of those perspectives, I was more informed, and it pushed me to be like, nah, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for my life to change in this way. I'm not. When you're informed, you can make better decisions, and those better decisions don't just impact you, they impact your partner, whoever you're going to have this kid with, or maybe you decide you want to go on this single mom journey alone. That can impact you, and it also impacts your baby. When you know better, you do better, and you can do better by your child with more information. Being more informed only helps everybody, and being more informed in not just ways of like parenting, but also pregnancy. Maternal mortality rates here in America are terrible, and they are even worse for Black women. And knowing that makes me so much more cognizant about what I could possibly go through as a pregnant woman, what I need to look out for, you know, what I need to know so I can arm myself, so I can arm my husband, so we are not walked all over by doctors, the signs that I need to look out for possibly in my body, you know, not to allow these doctors to force me into C-sections. I just read an article where Black women are statistically more likely, almost twice the rate of white women, to be given C-sections that they don't need. You know, we are so much more aware of things, and especially when it comes to pregnancy, that if you are going to make a decision like that, knowing that you could risk your life. I don't see enough people talk about pregnancy in this regard. Oh my gosh, we honestly downplay all of the ways in which your body changes during pregnancy, how much of a risk it is. Like, when you are pregnant, your body is at the most vulnerable it has ever been. And you are not only going through physical changes, you are going through emotional changes, hormones. Being pregnant and having a baby, it changes your brain. Like, we don't talk about this enough. And so if I am going to be a Black woman having a baby, could possibly die from this, I want to be hella informed. I want to know all of the things to know so I can make the best decisions for me. There are so many things that could happen. If I become a mom someday, which I'm leaning more towards yes now, if and when I become a mom someday, it's going to be regarded as a geriatric pregnancy, because anybody who's older than 35, it's just like, well, you're rotten, you're expired. Oh, it's just such a risk. So, you know, that's something I also have to be really intentional about, really informed about what that could mean for me, how I have to protect myself. Maybe it is just me overthinking it, but I would much rather overthink something that's going to change the entire course of my life and impact the life of whoever I bring into this planet, as opposed to underthinking it and just like going with the flow, you know, like just winging it. Like, no, thank you. When people talk to me about being a mom, their motherhood experience, their motherhood journey, whether I want to be a parent or not, I've always said, the risk has to be worth the reward to me. And the risk of my life changing in a permanent way was not worth that reward. I was not ready for the reward of motherhood. And so it's always been a no. And unless it's like an enthusiastic yes, or I feel genuinely ready, it's always gonna be a no. This is the first time in my life where it may not be like an enthusiastic, like, hell yeah, but it's not like an immediately no. It's like, I could do that. I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready. And I wanted to have this conversation because when we talk about being child-free, people are really accepting of it when it comes to women who are single. But if a woman is married, then it becomes weird. And some people have even said to me, like, then why did you get married at all? And it's like, what? Is that the only reason why people get married, like hetero or otherwise? Like, people don't just get married with the exclusive purpose of bringing children into this world. My marriage doesn't not mean anything, or it wasn't a waste of me to be married or to get married just because I'm not a mom. Like, it's actually insane. I hope this conversation, I hope this video helps someone who is child-free by choice when they're married, and maybe not help, but like it normalizes your decision, because it's not an anomaly, right? Like, we are out there. It's just we are really not talked about that much. And not only are we not talked about that much, when we are, it's always framed as, oh, well, oh my goodness, she's like childless, or there has to be something wrong. And it's like, no, nothing is wrong. Like, we're fine. Like, it's just, we just don't want to be parents. We don't want to be moms in this moment. And I think that's okay. You can be married and not be someone's mom. You can be married for 8 years and not be someone's mom. You can be married for 10 years and not be someone's mom. You can be married forever and never become anybody's mom. And that's fine, unless it's an enthusiastic yes, especially when it comes to parenting in this day and age where we are lacking a village, where it's so expensive, where it is so risky. It has to be that risk, all of that has to be worth the reward. And if you are not there yet, you don't have to be there. Take your time and make an informed decision for you, the best decision for you and your relationship. I'm getting closer to an enthusiastic yes. I'm like there now. I wouldn't say I'm an enthusiastically like fist pumping yes, but like I said, I'm not like, oh, and it took me 8 years to get there. And a lot of change and being really happy and comfortable with my life the way it is now, but a lot of work, growth, and sacrifice to get my life to a place where it is now, that I would be open to changing it. And everybody's gonna get there at their own time. Do not let society bully you. Do not let other people's expectations rush you. Take your time, because at the end of the day, it's gonna be you. It's gonna be you. It is a decision that will impact you the most as a woman, as the mom, and you have to make the best decision for yourself. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think. Drop down in the comments. Do not forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, peace out.